The scarred hull of the celestial scythe blotted out the stars as it settled on the scorched landing field. It was a vessel of grim purpose, its lines sharp and cold. A flagship forged in the relentless fires of the Galactic Coalescence's war against the harmony of 10,000 suns. From its belly extended a ramp, and down it walked the last daughter of a shattered empire. She was elegance carved from despair, her silver hair cascading over armor that had once gleamed like a moonlit lake, but now was dulled by plasma scorch and cosmic ash. Her eyes, the color of ancient amethysts, held the weight of lost worlds. Behind her, an honor guard of hulking coalescence warriors formed a wall of silent menace, their weapons humming with idle threat. Before them stood a simple figure. He wore the faded brown coat of a terraformer, its fabric worn soft at the cuffs. His boots were dusty from the red soil of this backwater world, a planet so insignificant it was not even a decimal point in galactic cartography. His face was lean, etched not by war but by sun and wind, and his hands were calloused from labor, not combat. He waited, his expression unreadable. The princess stopped a few paces away, the gulf between them not of distance, but of immeasurable experience. The silence stretched, broken only by the whine of cooling engines and the distant cry of a plains fox. When she spoke, her voice was a melody, frayed into a whisper by grief and a simmering, bitter anger. "They told me you were here," she said, the words hanging in the thin air. "They told me to seek the human on the red world, who did not answer the call. I have crossed a graveyard of stars. I have seen my homeworld burn. I have led the remnants of my people in a fighting retreat across 6 sectors. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with a profound, soul-deep betrayal. "And I find you here, tending dirt." The human said nothing. He simply watched her, the dam of her composure cracked. "Where were you?" The question was a blade. "When the coalescence armadas darkened our skies, where was your fury? When their world breakers cracked the crust of my cradle world, where was your legendary defiance? The galaxy spoke of humanity and whispered of your capacity for wrath, of your terrible, focused violence when cornered. We counted you as our final, desperate allies. We sent the pleas. We broadcast the codes. We begged." She took a step forward, her regal bearing dissolving into pure, desperate accusation. The answer was silence, a great and terrible silence from all your kind. You had vanished from the galactic stage. You, who once stared down the stellar Leviathan and made it blink. You, who forged alliances in fire and steel. You forsook us. Finally, the human stirred. He looked past her, at the monstrous warship, then back at her face, seeing not the princess, but the wounded child within the warrior. "We heard," he said, his voice quiet, a low rumble like distant thunder. "Then why?" The word was a shattered thing. "Why did you not come? Why did you forsake me? Forsake all of us? Have you? Have you forgotten how to fight? Have you grown content in your irrelevance?" A sad, almost imperceptible smile touched the human's lips. "No," he said. "We did not forget. We remembered something else." He turned and gestured toward the horizon. "Walk with me." Confused, anger still a hot coal in her chest, she dismissed her guard with a sharp gesture and fell into step beside him. They moved away from the metallic stink of the warship into the terraformed valley. The air grew softer, carrying the scent of water and growing things. "You speak of our fury," the human said, his eyes on the path. "You remember the stories. The Battle of Scion Ridge, where we held the line. The breaking of the Dralok siege. We were good at it. Too good. The galaxy saw a weapon, and for a time we saw ourselves as that weapon. It was a simple thing, a clear thing. They crested a rise. Below them, Nestled in the valley was not a military base, not a shipyard, but a sea of green. Golden grain swayed in the breeze. Rows of vibrant vegetables painted stripes of color across the rich soil. Water, drawn from deep aquifers, glittered in irrigation channels. And working the fields were humans, along with several other species she recognized as refugees from lost worlds, a squat, moss-covered Bryn, a pair of willowy Solaris tenders. We looked at that fury, the human continued, and we asked a question. What does it build? What does it leave behind when the noise fades? It leaves your ship. It leaves your scars. It leaves orphans and ashes and names on memorials. Necessary sometimes, but never noble. Only ever a failure of something better. The princess stared, the vast, peaceful fecundity of the scene, a silent reproach to the apocalyptic imagery, burned into her mind. We did not forsake you, the human said, his voice gaining a gentle firmness. We forsook the cycle. We heard your call, and 1,000 others like it across the centuries. And we saw the trap. Fight for this one, then the next, then the next. Forever the warriors. Forever the ones who clean up the galaxy's endless, bloody messes. It only perpetuates the need for more warriors, more messes. He knelt, scooping a handful of the dark, moist soil. So we chose a different war. A quieter, harder one. The war against entropy. The war against barren rock and silent air. We are fighting the universe itself, not for dominion, but for life. We are building arcs, not armadas. We are planting seeds, not deploying warheads. He let the soil trickle through his fingers. This world was a dead rock, careless and cold, a century ago. Now it breathes. It feeds. It shelters. Those working down there? They are survivors from Krill, from the Phoenix Belt, from places you've never heard of that also knew fire. The coalescence comes in urns. We come after, and we build. We always build. The princess stood very still. The furious, betrayed script she had carried in her heart was crumbling, replaced by a terrifying, vast, and quiet new narrative. So our loss, our suffering, you see it as just inevitable fertilizer for your gardens? The bitterness tried to return, but it felt hollow now. No, he said sharply, standing to face her. We see it as the failure we have chosen to address at its root. We cannot stop every war, but we can be there after. We can offer a soil that is not ash. We can offer a purpose that is not revenge. The coalescence wins battles. They conquer territory. But what is their legacy? Scorch marks on planets. Ours, he gestured to the valley, is this. He looked at her, his gaze piercing. You asked if I have forsaken you. I ask you, princess, what do you seek? More war? A continuation of the blood feud that has consumed your people? Your warriors on that ship are brave, but they are the last embers of a fire that is going out. You can throw them against the coalescence war machine and become a glorious memory. Or, she whispered, the word barely audible, or you can become a different kind of legend. You can land this ship. You can order your people to lay down their weapons, not in surrender, but in exchange for tools. You can help us terraform the next world. We will teach you how to make soil instead of graves, how to weave ecosystems instead of battle plans. Your people are not just warriors. They are artists, engineers, thinkers, dreamers. Let them dream of forests, not fortifications. The wind swept across the valley, carrying the sound of laughter from below. A human child was running alongside a young Bryn, chasing a floating seed pod. It was a sound she had not heard in a very long time. The scale of the choice paralyzed her. It was not a tactical decision. It was a cosmological one. to step off the stage of galactic conflict entirely, to reject the only story she had ever known, the story of empires, honor, and retaliation, and to write a new one in mud and chlorophyll. She looked at her hands, which had only ever held a weapon or a command console. Could they hold a trowel? Could they plant a seed? The idea was more alien than any creature she had ever encountered. You offer not salvation, but a different kind of struggle, she said. The only struggle that ultimately matters, the human replied. The one to create, to nurture, and to persist. The coalescence will burn itself out. All empires of pure conquest do. They will leave a galaxy of dead worlds. And we will be there, ready to bring them back to life. With or without you. He began to walk back down the hill toward the fields, leaving her alone on the ridge, suspended between the past and a possible future. Behind her, the warship stood, a monument to endings. Before her, the valley thrummed with beginnings. The anger was gone. The betrayal had transformed. It was not that humanity had abandoned her. They had simply outgrown the question she was asking. They were no longer answering the call to arms, because they were too busy answering a call more fundamental, more ancient, and infinitely more patient. She turned her back on the celestial scythe. She took a step, then another, down the slope toward the green and the growing things. Her steps were hesitant at first, then more sure. She did not yet know how to do what they did. She did not know if her people would follow. But for the first time since the skies had turned to fire, she saw a path that did not lead to a grave or a monument, but to a field under a sun, on a world that was alive. The human, now walking among the rows of plants, did not look back. He simply picked up a water can and began tending to a young sapling. He had given his answer. The choice and the future was now hers to cultivate.